James Arness really hated him more than anyone else. James Arness was born James Kingorns on May 26, 1923 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. When he was a young kid, Arness how'd he never gave up, was humble, and had quiet strength that would later show up in both his personal life and his work as an actor. Growing up during the Great Depression, he learned how important hard work and never giving up were early in life, things that helped him in every part of his life story. Standing super tall at 6'7" inches, he often felt weird as a boy, but his height later became one of the things people knew him for and helped make him look powerful on TV. His path to becoming famous, though, took a long time. During World War II, Arness got Coletto joined the United States Army and did a great job as a soldier who carried a rifle in the 3rd Infantry Division. He got badly hurt during the 1944 Anzio battle in Italy, where he got serious leg injuries that hurt him for the rest of his life. Even with these body problems, his time in the war made him tough, brave, and disciplined, things he would keep through his acting career. After the war, Arness came back home wanting to build a good future for himself and eventually found his way to Hollywood. His start in the entertainment business was slow. In the late 1940s, he began working in movies, often getting small parts in westerns and adventure movies. He soon got the attention of famous actor John Wayne, who became both a teacher and a friend. Wayne saw that Arness had tough good looks, a deep voice, and was really tall, perfect things for western movie parts. With Wayne's help and support, Arness's career started doing better, leading to parts in movies like The Thing from Another World, 1951, Anthem, 1954. These early acting jobs made people see him as a strong and reliable actor. But his biggest success was still coming. That success came in 1955 when Arness got picked to play Marshal Matt Dillon in the amazing television show Gunsmoke. This part would always what people remembered about his career and made sure his place in television history. Gunsmoke became one of the longest-running primetime shows in US television, being on TV for 20 seasons and almost 650 episodes from 1955 to 1975. As Marshal Dillon, Arness played a man who was honest, strong, and quietly caring, showing exactly what frontier justice meant. His acting touched people deeply, not only because of how big and strong he looked, but also because of the human feelings he brought to the character. Viewers saw Dillon as a fair and good lawman, someone who had problems with being lonely and doing his job, making him both heroic and someone people could understand. Over the years, Arness became a household name and stood for the American West. His love for his work was clear since he almost never missed an episode and carried the show on his shoulders for 20 years. His friendships with other actors like Amanda Blake, Miss Kitty, Dennis Weaver, Chester, and Ken Curtis feces brought warmth and friendship to the show, making a television family that fans loved. When Gunsmoke finally ended in 1975, Arness had already made sure people would remember him as one of television's greatest Western stars. Even after Gunsmoke, Arness kept working on television, starring in several made-for-TV westerns, and the show How West was one. He played his part as Matt Dillon again in a bunch of Gunsmoke movies during the 1980s and 1990s, making loyal fans really happy. His ability to go back to the character after so many years with the same strong feelings and realness showed how deep his talent was and his lasting connection with the part. When he wasn't acting, James Arness was known for his private, down-to-earth lifestyle. Even though he was famous, he didn't try to get attention. He cared about his privacy and focused on his family and close friendships instead of the fancy stuff in Hollywood. His being humble, kind, and quietly dignified made people admire him. Not only fans, but also people who worked with him. Many remembered him as a man who treated everyone with respect, from other actors to crew members, making him a loved person both on and off screen. In 1948, James Arness started one of the most important relationships of his life when he married Virginia Chapman, an actress who had been trying to make it in Hollywood during the same time when Arness was beginning to become someone people recognized in movies and television. Along with getting married came a ready-made family, since Arness adopted Virginia's son Craig, who had been born in 1946. James loved his job as a father to Craig, giving the boy his name on, dressing him like his own kid. Craig would later grow into a creative and successful man, finding success in the really hard world of photography. He became a respected photographer for news, someone who regularly worked for National Geographic, and started Westlight, a new stock photography company that was later bought by Getty Images. Craig's career showed his artistic eye and adventurous spirit, things that showed the caring environment Arness had tried to give him. Sadly, Craig died on December 14, 2004 at the age of 58, leaving behind amazing and influential pictures. Arness and Chapman had two more children. Their daughter, Jenny Learns, was born on May 23, 1950. From when she was little, Jenny was called a bright, sensitive, and artistic young woman, deeply loved by her father, even though she had the good things that came with growing up in a Hollywood family. Jenny had trouble with personal problems throughout her life. Sadly, she died on May 12, 1975, just days before her 25th birthday. Reports later said that her death was because of what seemed like a deliberate drug overdose. A heartbreaking loss that crushed James Arness, who had already been carrying the heavy job of balancing a demanding career with being a father. Jenny's death stayed a hurt that never fully got better for him. Their second son, Ralph Arness, born on February 18, 1952, took a very different path from his brother and sister. Ralph was drawn to the ocean, loving the surfing life style that was becoming popular in California during the 1960s. He worked at the sport with amazing dedication and skill, and in 1970 he got recognition around the world when became the world surfing champion. This accomplishment put him among the best surfers of his time, making sure his name went down in the history of the sport. Though his fame wasn't as lasting as his father's in Hollywood, Ralph's victory showed the family's amazing range of talents in different areas. Even with the successes of their children, James Arness' marriage to Virginia Chapman wasn't meant to last. After more than 10 years together, their marriage began to fall apart under the pressure of Arness' really hard work schedule on Gunsmoke, the hard job of raising 3 children, and personal struggles within the marriage. In 1960, James and Virginia got divorced, marking a painful turning point in their lives. In an important decision, the court gave Arness full legal custody of children. This job showed both how much he loved them and the stability he could give them. Even though his career took up much of his time, the years after the divorce brought more sadness to the family. Jenny's too early death in 1975 had already broken Arness' heart, but tragedy hit again just 2 years later. In 1977, Virginia Chapman herself died from an accidental drug overdose. Her death was another blow, a reminder of the struggles and hard times that had been around the family despite the outward signs of Hollywood success. Arness, however, did not go completely into being alone. 4 years after his divorce from Virginia, he met actress Thordis Brandt, a beautiful Norwegian-born performer who had been in movies and television during the 1960s. Their relationship lasted for 6 years, during which time she became a steady person in his life, giving him companionship when he was still getting over the end of his first marriage. Though their romance eventually ended, it was a meaningful chapter of starting over and companionship for Arness. In 1978, James Arness once again found lasting happiness when he married Janet Curtis, a woman who wasn't in the entertainment business. Unlike his previous partners, Janet wasn't a Hollywood person, and their relationship gave Arness the grounding, stability, and quiet home life that he seemed to want after years of work stress and personal trouble. They stayed married for more than 30 years, and she stood by his side until the end of his life. When Arness died in 2011, Janet and his sons, including Ralph, were still alive, carrying forward the legacy of a man who had been both a lasting Hollywood star and a loving, if often tested, family man. When people think of James Arness, the really tall actor who brought Marshal Matt Dillon to life on Gunsmoke for 2 decades, they often remember him as a man who was dignified, steady, and amazingly professional. He was not known for public fights or big conflicts with other actors. Arness usually kept his private thoughts private, and in interviews he usually talked with respect and control about his co-workers. However, there was one notable exception, Clint Walker, the tough star of Cheyenne. Their paths crossed often enough in the world of Western television, and though the two men might have seemed to be made the same way, tall, broad-shouldered, and famous in their cowboy roles, Arness admitted in rare comments that he had a deep dislike for Walker. In his own words, Arness said, "I could get along with just about anyone in the business, but Clint Walker was a different story. I didn't care for him one bit, and to be honest, I hated him more than anyone else I ever knew." This statement means a lot, especially thinking about that James Arness was not a man who liked to make harsh judgments easily. The hate, according to Arness, came from what he saw as Walker's arrogance and thinking he was more important than others. Walker, who stood nearly 6'6" inches tall and had a really muscular body that gave him a commanding screen presence, was often called, in the press, the gentleman of westerns, but Arness saw something else behind that polished image. He explained, Clint always walked into a room like he was the only man who mattered. He acted like the world owed him something, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. In this business, we all work hard. We all put in the hours, but Hemad, it seemed, like everyone else, was just helping his spotlight. Another reason for friction between them was the way Walker's career was often compared to Arness's. Both men led the Western television world during the 1950 seconds and 1960s. Arness on Gunsmoke, which became the longest-running primetime drama in history, and Walker on Cheyenne, which helped start the adult Western type in television. Reporters often drew comparisons between the two, setting them up as rivals in what people thought. Arness didn't like this comparison, not because he felt threatened, but because he thought Walker did not really earn the same level of respect. He once said, "Look, Clint had the body, no doubt about that. He looked like a boy hero, but when it came to depth, when it came to really carrying a show year after year, that was another matter. I never thought he took that craft as seriously as the rest of us did." Arness's anger seemed to get stronger as time went on, especially he and Walker was celebrated in fan magazines as one of the most beloved stars of television westerns. To Arness, the love felt like he didn't deserve it. He added, "People used to call him a giant, a man's man, all that kind of talk, but to me, it was just on the surface. Underneath, I never saw much humility. That's what I look for in people, humility." And Clint didn't have it. The tension between them never turned into fighting, at least not publicly. But Arness's words make it clear that his dislike for Walker was real and long-lasting. Even late in life, when thinking about his career, Arness kept this opinion. He admitted, "Didn't carry grudges with many people. He always tried to let things go and focus on the work. But with Clint, it was different. I never liked him and I never pretended to. If people ask me today what I hated most in the business, I can't answer that." In one word, Clint, for fans of both stars, the hate may come as a surprise. After all, both men gave a lot to the golden age of the TV Western, shaping an entire type of show and leaving legacies that continue to this day. Yet, the rivalry, at least in Arness's mind, was real. It serves as a reminder that even in Hollywood's close Western community, personalities could clash, egos could crash into each other, and sometimes respect was held back where others thought it was owed. In the end, James Arness's dislike for Clint Walker stands out not just because of how strong his words were, but because of how rare they were. He was a man who almost never spoke with anger about anyone. That he chose to speak this way about Walker gives us a look into a side of Arness that audience rarely saw. The private man behind Marshall Dillon, who despite his larger-than-life image, had his own grudge and unshakable dislikes. James Arness, the really tall actor best remembered for his legendary role as Marshall Matt Dillon on the long-running Western television series Gunsmoke, died peacefully from natural causes on June 3, 2011 at the age of 88. His death happened at his home in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, a place where he had spent his later years surrounded by family and cherished memories. For fans who had followed his amazing career that lasted over 6 decades, the news marked the end of an era in Hollywood history. Arness was not only one of television's most lasting stars, Buve was also a person who had come to represent the rugged, noble spirit of the American West. His death left behind a legacy of toughness, talent, and grace, reminding generations of viewers of the power of storytelling and the lasting mark one actor could leave on popular culture. Fans from around the world mourned his loss, thinking about the countless evenings they had spent watching him bring justice to Dodge Cassidy, his commanding presence, and his ability to balance strength with warmth on screen. Even in death, Arness continues to live on through his iconic performances, which remain timeless treasures for both old fans and new audiences discovering his work for the first time.